So if you're anything like me, and you're the type of person who just wants to sit back in spooky season at a movie theater with your significant other and just enjoy a pretty good movie, then Smile might be that movie for you. Now, if you have some apprehensions because you think that it's like It Follows or Truth or Dare, then those apprehensions are correct. It is very much like those movies. It's a concept that has been done before, and it's a concept that will be done again. But the one thing that I can say about Smile is that even though the concept and the premise of it has been done before, I can say that one, it was done very competently, and that's what makes it worth seeing. So that's just my simple review for anyone who doesn't want to hear any spoilers. If you're just looking to know if the movie's worth seeing, then I would say yes. Now, this review will contain some spoilers, so some small spoilers. I'll try to not spoil everything about the movie or try to not spoil significant things about the movie, but it's going to contain those spoilers, so you have the next 3 seconds to go ahead and click off. 3, 2, 1. All right. So if you just want a movie that you can just sit back, relax, get a drink, and enjoy, then Smile may be the... Alright, that's enough of that. Then Smile may be the movie for you. Now, like I said, the first reason why I do think this movie is actually a decent movie is simply because it's competent. You've seen other movies like this, like It Follows or Truth or Dare, but the thing about this movie is that it actually builds its characters up in a way where their motivations, their reactions, and emotions are relatively consistent. So when I say relatively consistent, when I think about that, is if you watch an entire movie from beginning to end, by the end of the movie, you should be able to completely justify, or to basically justify without doing too much mental gymnastics, of why the characters did what they did, and why the characters acted the way they acted, and why the characters felt the way that they felt. And that's how I felt about this movie. The writing was very competent, even though it's generic, kind of like a cheeseburger, and it's made to appeal to basically most of American society. So I would say that anybody can enjoy this movie. Like an average person like me can enjoy this movie. Someone who's more pretentious and is really into like a higher standard of movies can enjoy this movie somewhat, and then people who just want to sit back, not really think about anything, can enjoy this movie. So it's very much like a cheeseburger if it was made with care, if it was made by kind of like a professional chef instead of someone at a fast food restaurant getting paid $9 an hour, so they're giving $9 an hour worth of effort. It's generic, but the actors, the writing, and everything is just competent enough for it to really, stand out. Now, the main character, Rose, her character was played very well, so you understood her motivations for why she was doing what she was doing. So initially, when the paranormal thing started happening, because she's a doctor and because she was a medical professional, she initially tried to rationalize the things that were happening to her with her medical information that she already had, which made sense for what the character was done. Now, we've seen this same trope a million times about the intellectual character, the doctor, the therapist going through a paranormal activity and then trying to justify it and try to rationalize it through the frame in which they can understand. So initially she tried to rationalize by saying that she might have had PTSD or delusions due to stress, things like that, and we've seen that before. But what makes this one better than a mediocre version of that, the fact that her reactions are just more real. When she actually sees an open door and her alarm goes off and she thinks that there is an intruder in her house, being a small woman, she does not get a flashlight, go towards the door and try to investigate it herself. She immediately calls the police. When she sees someone in danger and they're trying to hurt themselves in a mental hospital, she doesn't, since she's a mental health professional, she does take things like that, and she does have some trauma kind of related to that. She does take things like that and she reacts in a very emotional way. It's not to the point where she's being so stoic to where it's unbelievable, but it's not to the point where she's being so irrational to where you can't even justify her actions. That's what I like about it. It seems more grounded in reality. If you put yourself in the position of a small woman or just anybody watching someone kill themselves, your first initial reaction will be shock, and especially if they're killing themselves like, the way that they were doing it in this movie. And then after that, you would want to take action, and the action that you take should be appropriate to the event that's taking place. And I think that just doing something that simple and having writers who actually understood that and actors that were actually willing to commit to those roles was very special and made it a good movie. Even her husband, there was a scene where she was explaining everything to her husband and he didn't initially believe it. He basically was downplaying it and acting as if she was having a mental breakdown, which he should. He's the husband of a therapist or of a medical professional. I believe she was a doctor that worked in mental health. So it would be crazy for him to just automatically believe her, but also because of the events of that day, like what she had done, or what it was perceived that she had done, which was very deplorable. It was actually a very deplorable act. I don't want to say what it was because I don't want to spoil it, but it made sense just due to the events that took place before. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what she did, but she did something that was very deplorable due to the paranormal being that was trying to attach itself to her. And it was a huge shock to him, was a huge shock to his family. She ended up going to the hospital that she works at. It was a huge shock to her co-workers. Everyone was in huge shock. So by the time he got home, he was, relatively upset about it, upset about the thing that she had done, and she was trying to tell him about it, and he was just missing it as if she was just insane. He really didn't want to hear it, and he just kind of just slept on the couch that day and really didn't want to deal with her. Now, in a less competent movie, something similar may have happened, but without the build-up. So when a husband just comes up to a wife and she starts telling them all these things about demons or ghosts or whatever, it for him to just completely dismiss her wouldn't be like the rational thing to do. But when you consider that he already took her to a mental hospital, he already got her some sort of emergency treatment, and the actual thing that she did to make him upset, which was like a legitimate reason to be upset, you could understand how like this man had to be professional all day dealing with her, and then he got to his breaking point at night, so he wanted to sleep on the couch and kind of push her away. And then she also revealed a little bit more about his character and about why she thinks that he did it, which is also a reasonable response. But that's what I'm saying. All the characters in here, whether it be her sister and the way that she interacts with her, because her sister, there was an event that happened in her past that drastically changed the way that her and her sister developed into adults. It made her have somewhat of a guilty conscience and then strive to help people with mental health, and it made her sister want to live for herself, because she's all like, yeah, I had to live for this person for so long, I want to live for myself, I want to live for my own children, I want to live for my own family, I'm not really worried about anyone else. Which is two different directions that, although are very different, make sense in the context of what they go through, and even makes sense even more by the time you understand what happens at the end of the movie. So I would say that that's really good, competent writing. It isn't great because none of the characters are really that unique in any type of sense. None of the characters have too many surprises in that type of sense, but it's grounded enough in reality, has competent actors, and is good enough on its own to be good and enjoyable to both casual movie watchers and critics alike. Now, I'd probably say that the next thing that is pretty good about this movie may be a cardinal sin to some people, but it is the utilization of jump scares. The jump scares in this movie were top quality. Now, I know that some people say there's no such thing as a top quality jump scare, but this one was. These were good. It's kind of like, watching Kobe Bryant or Carmelo Anthony with the pump fake. It's not quite Michael Jordan level good, but it's still very, very good, very, very serviceable. This movie uses its cinematography, its misdirection, building of suspense to really build several like really good jump scares to where like I've watched The Conjuring, I've watched The Babadook, I've watched all types of scary movies in recent history. None of them really ever caught me. But this movie caught me. It was pump faking. It would lead up to the jump scare. You think you knew what happened, then it wouldn't. It would lead up to the jump scare. You think it knew what happened, then it would happen, but it would happen differently than you expected to. It would lead up to the jump scare. You would think it wasn't gonna, or it would lead you into a false sense of security. You would think that there's gonna maybe be a wholesome moment, then boom, jump scare. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And I think that's just what separates, a bad or mediocre movie from a good one. Even though the concept is kind of generic and lame, it does the concept in an effective way, in a way that everybody can enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I'm sure people who are more critical of movies than me and aren't just casual people enjoyed it. And I'm sure people who are even more casual than me and less critical of movies enjoyed it. So it had a little bit of something for everybody there. So I think that's the second thing. And then the third thing is the plot. The plot was understandable. It was simple. It was straightforward, but it was really, really, really off-putting and everything. In a way that like a Courage the Cowardly Dog episode is, where it's like, yeah, you know that this is just a show for kids, or you know that this isn't like the greatest, most intellectual movie. It's not like Midsummer or Hereditary, but it's just so off-putting. Saying off-putting, but what I actually mean is unsettling. I'm not sure why I keep making that mistake. My vocabulary just isn't that good. But anyways, back to the review. It was able to do that simply by people just committing to the simple plot. When you have reactions that are real, and you have jump scares that are good and planned out, and you have a plot that's simple enough to follow through on, it isn't like so simple to the point where it's not entertaining. You basically get something that, like I said, it's like a really good cheeseburger. It's pretty good, pretty fantastic, to where it's like you can keep up with the plot, you understand it, it builds up into a beautiful crescendo, which the climax of it is generic, very, very generic. Like I'm gonna tell you, I'm not giving too many spoilers, but this movie can only go 3 generic ways, and it does go one of them. It could either go the Exorcist route, it could either go the happy ending, or it could either go the basic, most straightforward ending. And it actually does choose to be one of those. And which one it is, you're gonna have to sit there and find out. But like I said, it's competent. It was good at that. It built up the suspense. The actors committed to everything. So for all that, it was good. Now there was a couple of things in the movie that I didn't like, but they're kind of nitpicky. It had some bad CGI in it. That was one thing. Also, the pacing was good. I think it was fantastic, especially compared to most of its other contemporaries that are similar. But it was like the shift from her completely not believing in the paranormal to believing in the paranormal. It was like too quick for me. I would have liked for it to be built up more, but I know that for time constraints, it had to be done that way, or else the movie would have been like 3-4 hours long. Also, the fact that, spoiler alert, her and the cop that was helping her actually had a previous past relationship. That was very plot convenient. I wish that they had done it in a more subtle way to where they didn't have to use so much plot convenience. It was good because it gave a lot of reason to justify his actions. It gave an extra layer of emotional depth to their interactions. But to say that he wasn't, her ex-boyfriend wasn't a detective just to progress the plot would be a lie. But like I said, at least it was done competently and with care, to where like I like the cop character. He's probably one of my favorite characters there in the entire movie, besides the main character, which I really liked her as well. I'd probably say my least favorite character is probably her husband, because he was too generic. But like I said, even his actions can't be justified from the frame of you putting yourself in his shoes and really thinking about the things that he was going through. And then, yeah, like lastly, I say the last The last thing that I didn't like about it was the CGI kind of near the end. It kind of had like some really bad Resident Evil types of vibes. Like, you know what I'm talking about? It even had a moment where, you know, that one lady from the new Resident Evil, I haven't played it because I have children, so I don't really get to play a lot of video games, but had a moment where like they had something like that, but a more anorexic, less curvy version of it. I'll put a picture of her and up so I can show you kind of what I'm talking about. I think her name's like Lady something or Madam something, I don't remember. But overall, I think it was a pretty good movie. It was generic, but it was done well. It was competent. It was intellectually engaging without being so much so to the point where you had to think too much. It had some decent jump scares in it. It has some good acting, some great acting in some portions of it that I think. And, you know, that's really all I have to say about that. So, honestly, without the bad CGI, I could give it a pretty solid 7. But with the CGI and with the husband being a little bit generic and the pacing with the character just going from 0 to 100 in regards to believing in the paranormal stuff, not really questioning it more, I'll probably give it a 6.8, 6.9 out of, no, 6.8. I'll go with a 6.8. I'll give it a 6.8 out of 10. But that's still very good for the type of movie that it is, and I think it's definitely worth seeing, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So with that being said, I'm out. Also, if you enjoyed the Scatterbrain review, like and subscribe to my stuff, and I'll make more later. Peace.